Here in Tauranga Moana. Wait to move the chair along. Morena tātou. Nau mai hara mai, kuhu mai, welcome in. We are here Friday the 3rd of July 2026 at the stroke of 10 a.m. We are convening our meeting this morning for the Civil Defence Emergency Management Group Joint Committee meeting that we have here for our beautiful Toi Moana Bay of Plenty rohe. The sun is shining, Taman Retira is blessing us this morning. Team, in terms of that, I do have an opening statement that we will just look after ourselves before we invite our advisor, Tahiri, to open our hui, please. And just a warm reminder, please, to members and staff that this meeting is being recorded and that the recording will be made available on the Bay of Plenty Regional Council website following the meeting. Also a warm reminder to all present, please, that local government decision-making affords no protection to councillors, council officers and the public for comments made during meetings that are subsequently challenged in a court of law and determined to be slanderous. And on that very high optimistic note, please, Advisor Tahiri, we warmly welcome you, please, to open our hui with karakia tīmatanga with an opening prayer. Ngā mihi.
Tēnā koe, Your Worship. I te atua, tēnā koe, tātou te nema te haere atura, te umate ki te umate, te ongora ki te ongora, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou koutou. E te mihi ki ngā haukainga, tēnā koutou. Tēnei te mihi mahana ki a koutou o ngā rangatira o Joint Committee, nau mai haere mai i tēnei wānanga. Reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa. I noi tātou. Whakatakotou ki te uru, whakatakotou ki te taonga. Ia mā kere ki ute, kia mā taratara ki tai. I aki ana tia tāku e teo, e huka, e hau, ti hei, mau i ora, kia ora.
Mau i ora. Many thank you, Advisor Tahiri. And I'm also mindful that we have the nation's kapahaka experts, exponents here in Tauranga Moana as we speak. Our warm regards to all of the rōpū who have performed all of this week. In fact, also in the regional competitions in each of our arohe. And it would be remiss of me not to mention an extra special mihi of encouragement to our local mobile kura kaupapa who are performing today. Ngā mihi. We do have a number of our members who are joining us both here in chamber, in our regional council chamber, and also online. We will move, please, to Campbell. But before we do that, I'm just going to take some apologies. Please, if we have any apologies, I do have an apology from Deputy Mayor Kingi from Kawerau, confirming we have an apology, please, for His Worship Medina, Western Bay, and so wonderful to have Councillor Beach with us this morning. Welcome in, Deputy Chair Dougal from our Regional Council in terms of members, and we also have Councillor Scrimger from our Regional Council joining us as well, observing, much like Councillor Schuler over in Tauranga Moana. We have His Worship Mayor Moore here this morning, joining us online, Member Mayor Tapsell.
And I'll just need to. Oh, apologies. We'll need to jump off by 12 to catch your flight. Apologies.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's a lovely reminder to the Chair to move things along. We have an apology from Mayor Drysdale, and we are joined again as a full participating and voting member, Deputy Mayor Schooler, Observer Councillor Schuler, and we also have for Whakatane Council Mayor Tatsos, who is joining us here in chamber today. Any other further apologies? I've actually swept across present and apologies all in one. We like to do things like that. We've got that. Welcome in, Councillor Kino from Te Whakatohia from Opotiki. Morena. Thank you for joining us. So across all of those apologies that we've covered, please if I can invite a mover for our apologies this morning. I have a mover in Mia Moore and a seconder in Deputy Chair Dougal. All those in favour, please signal aye.
Aye.
Those against, there are none. The apologies are carried. I'm going to invite Mr. Fraser, please. We start our meeting this morning with a recognition of former Mayor of Kawerau and Councillor of Bay Plenty Regional Council, Malcolm Campbell. Ruben Fraser, we're in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Your Worship, and good morning, members. In a moment, I'll ask people to stand for a minute silence to recognise the passing of Malcolm Campbell, but I just wanted to read a brief statement before that to acknowledge his passing. Many of you will know Councillor Malcolm Campbell as a valued member of the Bay of Plenty Civil Defence Emergency Management Group in our local government whānau in the Bay of Plenty. Malcolm passed away on the 21st of May this year after a short illness. Councillor Campbell served this region with distinction for over 2 decades, including his time as Mayor of Kawerau and as the Eastern Bay of Plenty Regional Councillor. Throughout that whole time, he made significant contributions to the governance and strategic oversight of civil defence and emergency management. He was deeply committed to community wellbeing, regional collaboration, and building resilience across the Bay of Plenty. His experience, his strong voice, and his dedication were highly respected around this table, and his presence will be greatly missed. On behalf of the Joint Committee, we formally acknowledge and sincerely appreciate his service, and we extend our condolences to Malcolm's family, friends, colleagues, and community. You will see that we do have Councillor Campbell's nameplate here with some flowers as part of that acknowledgement. And so perhaps if I could ask everybody to stand just for a moment's silence. Thank you very much, everybody. It might be appropriate now, Madam Chair, just to invite members who wish to do so to share any reflections or acknowledgements in their own memories of Malcolm Campbell.
Committee members, we're in your hands, please, if there are any reflections or acknowledgements. We've been here since the 21st of May, but absolutely appropriate as a former member of this table. Mayor Tapsell, please.
Tēnā koutou kei te mihi ki te rangatira o Malcolm. Oe te mamae e. Hi everyone, I just wanted to acknowledge our leader Malcolm. It has been with heavy hearts that we learned of his passing recently, and just want to acknowledge that me, Faylene and I, since we were first elected in 2013, have had his presence always well known, well heard, and it is a real loss to local government to see him go. But as we know, his enduring efforts and his contribution to the community of Kawerau, but the wider Bay of Plenty, will be much appreciated for many years to come. So thank you very much for this moment to acknowledge his memory, and also want to thank you for the beautiful flowers on his desk as well. He will be sorely missed from us all. Thank you.
Ngā mihi Mia Moore.
Thank you, and through the chair. Some memories from Malcolm that he passed on I can't share in this room because it is live and it is being recorded. But I can just say when he started with the word mate, it was time to actually listen. And he's left a legacy with many of us. He was always offering to help whether you're brand new or certainly wasn't scared to give people lots of experience at the table as well. And he's actually left a legacy in a different form. He's actually chairing this meeting today, and I often see a reflection of Malcolm there. So yeah, just if you go. I was went to Warbirds over Wanaka not long before we lost Malcolm, and 10,000 people there on the day, and guess who walked through the gate at the same time as me? And I was like, oh, it was a real cheer up to see him there. It's a cold, dreary day, so lots of fond memories, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Worship. Josh.
Thank you. Look, I didn't know Malcolm particularly well, as he served as mayor before I came on, so I didn't have that much interaction from him. But I just will say that the service for him in Kawerau was a mark of the huge respect that he had in both in the Kawerau community, but way beyond that as well, and the amount of dignitaries that were there to pay tribute to him. Testament to the man. So it's with sadness that we consider that his service here is ended, but also I believe that our energy goes on to something new. So wherever his energy is gone, I'm sure it'll be having an impact.
If you two do go.
Through you, Madam Chair, thank you. Yeah, acknowledging Malcolm's extreme long service to his beloved K-Town. But I can assure you, I met Malcolm 6 or 8 months ago when I first joined the council. He was one of the first people that called me to congratulate me, and was very willing to share his insights and knowledge. But what I can assure you is his voice is forever on our shoulder. Anyone who has ever sat in a chamber with Malcolm, you will still hear his voice week after week, day after day, meeting after meeting. So his words and his mannerisms will not be lost on us. And I can hear him saying things right now in my right shoulder, into my ear, and I'm sure many will hear his words and voices as we make decisions as we go forward. So yeah, he is certainly not here, but we can certainly still hear him. Thank you.
Kia tātou, of course, as a daughter of Koropu Tauwaki in Kawerau. I was actually looking at our previous minutes where we met the civil defence back on the 16th of April. We had a lot going on in Kawerau that day, but not to know that would be the last of our meetings, that we would see Malcolm. Actually, when you live in Kawerau, he's really never gone. He's everywhere. And as the former mayor of Kawerau, predecessor, mentor, and whāngai papa, he would actually want to be here at this time, in this time of extreme reform in a sector that he absolutely loved and adored. So I am very blessed to be surrounded by colleagues. We have been shared some gold nuggets to be able to look after, yes, our hapori, our communities first and foremost, but also for our rohe tūturu of Toi Moana. Those who walk before our time, we inherit the decisions made, and we're most certainly blessed that they've given us everything that we need to be able to look after one another going forward. If I can please, Regional Manager Gracie, just acknowledge also, along with all of the dignitaries from local government spanning over nearly 3 decades, the support from the Emergency Management Bay of Plenty team in particular, who did take the time to come across to acknowledge young Malcolm, our Malcolm Campbell. Thank you so much, everybody. So back to our agenda. We'll go on, and all of the wonderful stories that we can both share online and really possibly shouldn't. we'll take that knowledge, and we do have some recommendations. Thank you, Redmond Fraser, for those beautiful words. We do have a number of recommendations, please, to receive the acknowledgement. Acknowledges with appreciation the significant contribution of Councillor Malcolm Campbell to the Bay of Plenty Civil Defence Emergency Management Group Joint Committee, that's so long, and expresses its sincere condolences on his passing. Confirms the appointment, please, of Councillor John Scrimger as an alternate member of the Bay of Plenty Civil Defence Emergency Management Group Joint Committee, representing the Bay of Plenty Regional Council, as recommended by Regional Council at its council meeting that was held on the 25th of June 2026, and welcomes Bay of Plenty Regional Council alternate representative, Councillor John Scrimger. Always warm welcome to the Bay of Plenty Civil Defence Emergency Management Group Joint Committee. If I can invite a mover, please, for all 4 recommendations. I have a mover in Mia Moore, and I have a seconder in Mia Tansosh. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against, there are none. The item is carried. While we are here, we're at the part of our agenda where we wish to pay a recognition, please, to our long-serving, possibly as long as our former acknowledgement, volcanologist Brad Scott, who joins us online this morning. Morena, Brad, thank you for taking the time. And an opening acknowledgement, please. I'd like to acknowledge the significant contribution of Brad Scott. After 52 years as a volcanologist with Earth Sciences New Zealand, which was formerly known for quite some time as Genie Science. Brad, you've been a trusted expert and valued partner supporting the Bay of Plenty CEDAM Group throughout your career. Scientific expertise and monitoring. You provided critical scientific leadership and volcanic monitoring and interpretation, particularly in relation to Whakaari, White Island, and regional volcanic risk. It was always quite worrying when you would conclude your presentation, Brad, and your phone would ring. That did not excite the committee. Your work has helped translate complex volcanic data into practical decision-making advice for emergency managers. You were also very present support during heightened activity and emergencies. During periods of volcanic unrest and crisis, Brad, you've been instrumental in providing timely and authoritative advice, supporting risk assessments and volcanic alert level understanding, and contributing to coordinated response efforts across multiple agencies. Your input and expertise have directly supported informed decision-making under pressure. That is the environment that you operate in if you choose to come into local government team. Get excited. Collaboration with CEDAM. Brad, you've demonstrated a strong commitment to partnership and collaboration, working closely with the Bay of Plenty CEDAM Group, our local authorities, and Lifeline utilities and partner agencies. You've also helped bridge the gap, a very big gap sometimes, between science and emergency management, which is incredibly critical in high-risk environments. In terms of your communication and community understanding, a key strength you bring is your ability to communicate complex science clearly, whether with officials, stakeholders, or the average Joe, the average bro in our wider community. So supported public understanding of volcanic risk and contributed to more effective community preparedness. And for these reasons, you've always been a favoured presenter of elected members. After each presentation, you've delivered at elected official induction days. In terms of training, capability and building, Brad, you've also contributed to training, briefings and exercises, strengthening our region's capability to respond to volcanic hazard events. Your insight has helped ensure CEDAM planning reflects the latest scientific understanding. And in closing, overall, Brad, your contribution has enhanced the Bay of Plenty's readiness, resilience and ability to respond to volcanic hazards. Despite retiring from your role recently, you continue to contribute to science by taking on Us doing pretty good team. Emeritus role with Earth Sciences New Zealand, mentoring our younger up-and-coming scientists. Your professionalism, expertise, and willingness to engage have been highly valued for our beautiful Toimona Bay Pitirohi, and we thank you for your ongoing continued support in growing the next generation of scientists. Ngā mihi. So we'll open again, please, to our committee members. Brad, please don't drop some terrible news. We've got a nice sunny day here in Tauranga Moana, but it's always been treasured and valued, the information that you share to help us protect the people in the place that we call home. Committee members, raise your hands, please. If there's nothing further, Brad, we are waiting here with bated breath, hopefully with no volcanic risk. We're in your hands, Brad. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'd made some notes to sort of, the touch points I've had with you guys, and you've blown me away. You've reminded me of a few things I've forgotten. I guess from my perspective, and I really like the words you used about bridging the gap. That's been something I've been very passionate about, bringing science to the end users. My relationship with the Bay started back in 1987, Edgecombe earthquake. Most of us will remember that day, where we were, what we were doing. And that was certainly my start of the journey with you guys. And one of the highlights has been those Te Poki meetings. Malcolm reminds me, basically every time we had one of those meetings, something happened the day after. So I hope we don't have that tomorrow. I'm not aware of anything that should happen tomorrow, except that it may start raining. I'm very humbled, guys, and thanks very much. And hopefully I may see you still through my emeritus role. I've certainly been attending the hazard forums and some of the regional planning work and plan to carry on doing that. Thanks very much. I'm really humbled by you guys.
Brad, thank you. If I do have a phone call from our emergency MBOP team tomorrow, I will be getting on the phone and ringing you again. But sincerely, thank you. Thank you for continuing to contribute. The knowledge that you have will not be lost as you pass it on to our next generation. So thank you so much.
Thanks very much. And everybody, good luck with the adventures ahead with the new structures and new regional government.
Thank you for that, Brad. We are on to welcomes now, team. We welcome in his new role as the regional manager of NBOP. We welcome to the table and to the meeting. Congratulations to John O'Gracie, to my right-hand man, some like to say. Congratulations, John, and welcome into the new role. And also a welcome, please, to our new Chief Executive from Western Bay of Plenty, Matt Potton, which is your first joint committee meeting, Matt, and I see that you're joining us online. We can assure you that from this meeting, Councillor Beach will have a whole stack of things for you to be able to deliver on. But welcome in, Matt, and congratulations on your appointment. We also have a warm welcome, please, to our new NEMA representative, Shona Morgan. No whangarei, Morena, yes, we've had a kōrero. Our Senior Regional Emergency Management Advisor, who will be joining us, guiding us, looking after us, while our beautiful Lily Folds is at home, either waiting or with new Bubba, as we saw growing along our joint committee meetings. So, Jonah, welcome in. Welcome to Mihi, Hawaii, Noihiapi. I'm sure everyone's dying to know. Please, we're in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Madam Chair. As you alluded to, I am from Whangarei, I work out of our Auckland NEMA office though, so I do quite a bit of travelling and commuting, and in my role I look after 3 regions. I look after Northland and the Chatham Islands, and I now look after Bay of Plenty for the foreseeable future. So I've been down to visit the region a few times in the last couple of months. It's always been glorious, so thank you very much for that, and I look forward to working with you all over the next 12 to 14 months while Lily's having a break with her baby. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Shona. And if Lily should have any thoughts of returning earlier within the 12 months, by all means, we encourage you to see that full 12-month period through. Thank you. Tim, we are returning to our agenda proper. We had the chair who introduced the apologies earlier. We're just going to add to that list, please. Apologies from Chief Executives, Fiona McTavish, our KEG Chair, Deputy KEG Chair Marty Greenfeld from Tauranga City, Steve Purdia from Whakatane, Stace Lua from Opotiki, Morgan Godfrey from Kawerau. That is a sign of the times of what's happening in the sector team. We all need a bit of time off, but however, we are joined by brand new shiny CE Matt from Western Bay of Plenty today, holding up the team. We have the apologies that were captured, moved and seconded. Thank you, team. We will move through our agenda. Agenda item 2 is public forum. And as of today, we have none. They're all at the Kapahaka at Bay Park. That's fine. Agenda item 3, please. Items not on the agenda. There are no agenda items to be added. Agenda item 4, the order of business. The order of business was changed to address agenda item 8.1 from the original agenda. At the commencement of the meeting, to acknowledge Councillor Campbell and welcome our new regional council representatives. Agenda item 5, are there any declarations of conflicts of interest from members with regards to our agenda today? And we will move along to item 6, public excluded business to be transferred into the open, of which there are none. So we're moving on to agenda item 7, which are our minutes. 7.1. We're on page 9 of our agenda, which is the Bay of Plenty Civil Defence Emergency Management Group Joint Committee minutes that were held on the 16th of April 2026. We've all received our minutes for those who were present, and we'll follow them through. Can I invite a mover, please, and a seconder for our minutes? I'm actually happy to move in that way on the 16th. And I'm going to take a seconder, just checking for those members who were present at the particular meeting. I'm happy to move the minutes from the 16th of December, and I have a seconder just checking in Moore. You were absolutely in the room, Your Worship. I can assure you, you were sitting next to our former councillor from memory at Whakatane Council. All those in favour, please signal aye. In receiving our minutes from the 16th of December, are there any against receiving our minutes from the 16th of April 2026? There are none against. The item is carried. Thank you. We are on page 24 of our agenda team. We're at agenda item 8, which are the reports. There are some decisions required. 8.2 is the Bay of Plenty CDM Group statutory appointments. And we are in the hands of our new regional manager, Jono Gracie. Regional Manager Gracie, we're in your hands. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou katoa, Madam Chair, members. This paper seeks the committee's endorsement on a number of statutory appointments and rescindments for group and local controllers within the Bay of Plenty CDM Group. Also, it's largely procedural in nature. These decisions are important because the CDM Act requires controllers be formally appointed by this group before they can exercise those statutory powers available to them in an emergency or in recovery. So under Section 26 and Section 27 of the CDM Act, that provides the ability for us, for you to appoint and rescind. And these provisions ensure that these people can be called upon to lead emergency responses and that they are formally endorsed and legally empowered to undertake those functions by this committee. The appointments and rescindments before you reflect organisational changes, some succession planning, ensure that suitably qualified and experienced controllers are maintained across the region. And this also is in line with our KPIs in item 8.4. These recommendations have been considered and endorsed by the coordinating executive group. So accordingly, I commend the recommendations to the committee and am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, committee members. Any points of clarification or questions from committee members? If there are none, as Group Manager Gracie has just shared, fairly procedural, very important, very first meeting for our new regional manager. We would not want to be obstructive or get in the way of things happening by the nature of emergencies. So we do have a number of rescindments and appointments. 10 in total, I believe, Group Manager Gracie, as laid out in the agenda. I can invite a mover, please.
Happy to move.
Deputy Chair Dougal, I have a mover for all 9 recommendations.
Yeah, happy to move items 1 to 10 on the agenda.
1 through to 10, and they are a range of appointments and rescindments. We're going to keep things nice and tidy under the legislation, while we know what the legislation is, team, to be able to assist our group. I have a mover and Deputy Chair Dougal. Do we have a seconder, please, for all 10 recommendations? I have a seconder in Mayor Panzosh. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against? There are none. I see you there, Deputy Mayor Scholar. I haven't taken my eyes off you just yet. All those in favour, the item is carried. Thank you. Ngā mihi. Well done. We are on page 36 of our agenda this morning. Agenda item 8.3, which is the final draft of the Bay of Plenty Sedum Group annual plan for 2026-27 as we sit here in July. We are joined at the table by Paul Greenshields, our MBOP Manager for Planning. Paul, we're in your hands, thank you.
Morning, Madam Chair, Your Worships and committee members. I present to you the paper and the draft annual plan, final draft annual plan for 26-27. What I want to do is probably just walk you through this annual plan a bit, just to give you some context and give you a bit of a guide on how the annual plan will operate for our group members. So the annual plan is a document that operationalises the strategic direction for our group plan. The group plan sets our strategic direction, and there are 12 strategic objectives that we follow as we set out this annual plan. The annual plan mirrors the 4 R's, which are also how the group plan is written as well. So the activities are led by the group office, MBOP. However, these activities are also require engagement from the group members and partners throughout the year. It doesn't mean that the activities are delivered by MBOP, but they are led by activity owners within the group office. Each activity is prioritised, A through B and C, A being the top priority and core activities for the group each year. These activities are reported quarterly through governance, and the B's and C's are of lower priority and BAU for group delivery. This year, the annual plan has 19 A priorities, so we've got a full work plan this year. These activities look to deliver strong progress against the strategic direction of the group plan. I've got a couple of examples here that we can look at. So for response, an A activity is develop a public information GIS hub for public awareness during events. So that's one of the activities, top priorities for the group this year. Strategic objective that it meets under response. CDM is a trusted and accepted source of information in an emergency event. Communities are provided with the information they need when they need it and in order to make decisions and keep themselves and their whānau safe. So that's one of the strategic objectives. Clear alignment there with the activity. Just to go down to show you a BAU activity in readiness, C activity, working with Bay of Plenty Regional Council to understand and communicate hazard projects and mapping for Bay of Plenty community. So this is a BAU activity for us. It meets the objective under readiness, strong communication networks and information flow between and among community and CDM partners. So there are clear alignment again with our group plan. I'll just move on to a couple of the minor changes that have been made since this committee last saw the activities for the annual plan. In line with Mayor Denya's comment around the regional fuel plan, that review has been elevated to a priority A, given the significance of current global fuel crisis. Additionally, there is a reprioritised annual plan item activity from the current annual plan, and I'll go into more detail on that in my next paper, the Q3 report. So therefore, next steps, once the annual plan has been approved by this committee, the group office will set a coordination plan to implement the activities, giving a timing across the next 4 quarters and having those lead activities set out for our group members.
Thank you for that, Paul. Group Manager Gracie, if we have anything further to add to our presentation this morning, thank you. Nothing to add, and just a reminder saying this is setting up our incoming 26-27 year. This is our annual plan for the work ahead. Committee members, we're in your hands if there's any questions, points of clarification. Again, a reminder, this report starts on page 36 of our agenda. Deputy Mayor Scholar, and then we'll go to Mayor Tansosh.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for the report. I guess just reading the risk a couple of times in the report talks about the proposed emergency management bill, and then later on just talks about changing environment and the fact that it's a live document. So can you just help me through how are those always highlighted? Are we going to get that in the next quarterly, the update? How do you let us know what's happening on those risks that you've highlighted for us in the report, please?
Thank you. That will come through in the reporting cycle, and the key one around legislative change is the EM bill is currently before Parliament's 17th as of yesterday, and once that progresses through Parliament, then we will get a program of work from NEMA, and that will then dictate how we deliver on some of those legislative points within the annual plan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Group Manager Gracie. And I think in regards to the specific question from Deputy Mayor Scholar, timing actually of decisions that are being made that impact us but not being made by us, but are being made for us for the Bay of Plenty area. The specific ask was really how would we know about some of those updates, perhaps online, via email. Group Manager Gracie, we understand that we are not the architects of the timeline. While we have a range of different pieces of work in local government, I'm sure our MBOT team will notify us in our usual way as soon as the NEMA decisions are made to be able to distribute them out to members. Yeah, we confirm that. Deputy Mayor Scholar, does that perhaps answer the question? Thank you so much.
Yes, it does.
Mayor Councillor, thank you.
Thank you. I just had one issue to raise around, I know there's been discussion with the various people based in different councils. I understand that there's been some discussion around adding group coordination of central government funding to one of the priorities, which I think had been agreed to, but I don't think it's in the final draft. So I'd just be seeking to have that added in. So, you know, happy to approve it, but subject to that final amendment, which I understand had been agreed to.
We took that, Your Worship, as a KEG item, and that is currently something that we are working through as an action point from KEG and with NEMA as well. And there is some national interest in pulling that together. So whilst we took the view of pulling that funding together for the Bay of Plenty, there's now a national view on that actually would suit everyone. All of the seeding groups would be interested in that. So NEMA have undertaken to do that work with us, but the timeline is not there. So we can put it in the plan, but I will say that it is a KEG item and it is.
Thank you, Mayor Tunsosh. And it wouldn't be unhelpful to actually have that in the annual plan, that specific statement, just so that it doesn't get lost. It reflects that it has been raised, and that is with our coordinating executive group. That is the method and process. If you're happy with that, Mayor
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Many members. Let's formalise that, please, Mayor Tunsosh, if you're happy to move in that way for that to be formally added in the way that's just been described. I'm happy to second that. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye, thank you. And our regards to our coordinating executive group team, or our key group, of which all of our chief executives of territorial authorities are members as well. Thank you. Regards to this agenda item, if there's nothing further from committee members, please. The recommendations on page 37 to receive the report, the final draft of our future upcoming annual plan for 2026-27. We've just ticked over into the beautiful new Matariki month of July. So we're getting very excited, and thank you, approves with the addition of that particular statement, the final draft of the Bay of Plenty Sedum Group annual plan for 2026-27. Do I have a mover, please, for both recommendations? I have a mover in Deputy Chair Dougal and a seconder in Councillor Beach. All those in favour, please signal aye. Those against, there are none. The item is carried. We are on page 56, theme of our agenda this morning.
Yeah, could I just interrupt?
Mayor Tunsosh, yes.
My apologies for this. I should have raised it earlier, but just on the earlier paper, it lists Mike Avery as a controller for Whakatane District Council, but that's been rescinded. I think that has been sent through. So just if we could just, sorry, I should have raised it when we were doing the paper, but
no problems, Mayor Tunsosh.
Yeah, thank you. So that's
earlier here.
35. Yeah, on page 35, please.
Just help guide us, please, Mayor Tunsosh, what page?
So page 35 of the agenda, it lists the appointed controllers, and for Whakatane District Council, Mike Avery is listed at number 2, has been rescinded. So we have 3 controllers currently.
Great, thank you. There will be some formal, in the same way that we had some procedural rescindments and appointments. For our next agenda, please, if we can just reconfirm that, or has that rescindment been done and we just haven't updated the table?
I think that's my understanding. It hasn't been updated, but I stands to be corrected.
Thank you, Your Worship. We'll get the team to have a look. We may have just had the procedural
Yeah, that's
formal
fine.
rescindment. Just need to update some of our tables. And let's be very gracious with each other. I've got a lot of tables across our week, but that's incredibly helpful so that we stay up to date and accurate, Your Worship. Thank you. We know who in the team we can rely on to keep their eyes on that finer detail. I'm very excited. Thank you. We're happy to move on, Your Worship. Thank you. We'll leave that action point with our team. Thank you, Group Manager Gracie. We are at page 56 of our agenda. This morning, agenda item 8.4, the Bay of Plenty Sedum Group Training KPI report. Group Manager Gracie, we're in your hands. I believe, come on up, please, Manager Tahiri, who will be joining us at the table for this agenda item. We're in your hands. Stace, again, Amini.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tēnā koutou katoa ngā rangatira, Your Worships, Council members. I will largely take the paper as read. It is a standard paper that we push forward for you to read over and be aware of for your information. But I will highlight a few things that are happening in the space and what this really relates to. So, firstly, thank you all for moving the appointments and rescindments, because that will be reflected in our KPIs and our tables, and also for your faith in me by appointing me as the group controller for the Bay of Plenty Sedum Group. I appreciate it. So, since the last joint committee, we've run about 11 training courses to date, and those courses have been run around the entire region. The focus has been mainly on intermediate and function courses, which is really good. What that means is the intermediate courses we run are for new staff members coming into the space, which is fantastic because it means it's moving. And the function courses means we're getting a little bit of seniority in the space because they focus more on the function that happens as opposed to the overall running of an emergency operations centre or coordination centre, depending on where they operate. I'd like to highlight that we're currently working with our iwi partners in this training space. The intent for us is to run a training package for Te Whakatōhea, Ngāi Tai, and Te Whanua Apanui in the coming months. And that will be a mixture of council and iwi, and then some solely for iwi. The idea behind that is by having some of our iwi and hapu members in that space, they will also meet those people who will likely be on the other end of the phone in the in the Emergency Operations Centre or the Emergency Coordination Centre. And just like anything, the whakawhanaungatanga, the relationships, it's not what you know, it's who's your bro sometimes when it's a little bit chaotic. And what that means is if we can have that corridor happening at the front end, we'll only see good things at the back end. And that's the intent behind that. We're also providing a couple of sims which is the coordinating the Sims 4 course. It's our coordinated incident management system. But that course is being put on for our agency partners, and that's been requested through the many emergency services coordination committees that we run as part of the group office. That's made up of many of the members of this group, being Health, being Fire Emergency New Zealand, Hatu Hone. And what that means is, or at least how we're seeing that, is that buy-in is a direct correlation to the amount of emergencies and events that we are responding to. So what that's telling us at the group level is that people understand what it is now, and multi-agency coordination is becoming more and more frequent and more required. So that's how we're reading that, and we're more than happy to put that on and sort of lean into that space. Excuse me. Coming up, we have a tier 2 exercise in September and a tier 4 exercise in October, which is run by NEMA. So tier 2, that means it's a regional exercise. It means everybody in the Bay of Plenty will be playing in that space, and so will our agencies. The tier 4, that's nationally led. It's run by the National Emergency Management Agency, and that has a specific focus on a Pacific tsunami. So the Bay of Plenty CM group will have a key part to play in that space. The intent for us is to base our regional exercise on tier 4, so that, because we do understand the burden of our council staff who give up their BAU time to play in this space. So by doing the tier 2 this way, it means those that may not have the capacity or the capability to do it in October can still give us what we can still test everything we need to test, is where I'm going with that. And then we can take those learnings and we can apply them in the tier 4 exercise. So we can give NEMA a very good idea of what we're doing and how we do what we do, which, without blowing our own horn, we do very well, but also take the burden away from the many councils who provide the staff to do what we do. And it's an acknowledgement to them, I think. And we will be running our Bay 8 cohort this coming financial year. So for those who aren't aware, Bay 8 is our surge staff capability that we have in the region. And that is made up of council employees from around the entire region, so WDC, Western Bay, the whole lot. And what that does is it gives us the ability to surge staff into areas that may not be able to spin up their own people because they're currently affected. It's really good to have that cohort still going, and it gives us a few levers to pull on when we need to help out our emergency management whānau around the region. And lastly, I'd just like to highlight that the New Zealand Response Team 16, which belongs to this group, had their recruitment evening a month or so ago, and it was an absolute hit. Our communication and engagement team, they did a fantastic job of publicising the recruitment. We had a ton of people come in, very, very interested, very, very keen. And the reason I'd like to highlight that is because they are volunteers who spin up during an emergency, and they will go out and do things from having cups of tea with people who are affected to working in swiftwater environments, clearing roads, using chainsaws. They are a group asset that we can deploy should and when we need to. And they are the ones that can get to those communities that are most affected. So that's kind of where we are. Everything that my colleague Paul was talking to with regards to the annual plan is what drives this. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Manager Tahiri. I heard the word, it was a hit. Perhaps we should have come along. We're requiring some of that enthusiasm and optimism in local government at the minute. Committee members, we're in your hands. Thank you. Someone far wiser than I am, it has been said that you failed to plan. You're absolutely planning to fail. This gives our teams and our communities every chance to be able to be looking after one another well, before, during, and perhaps often in cases a long time after. Committee members, we're in your hands. Thank you. Deputy Chair Dougal.
Through you, Chair. Thank you, Stacey. Thank you for the report. It's not really a question, it's just really an endorsement. Since I've joined this committee, I see training has been an identified area of focus, and I think we have a clear understanding of where there is a lack in suitably qualified trained staff across the region. So I think one, it's great to have that type of visibility at this committee, and two, it's good to see a a focus within each organisation to address that. So yeah, just endorsing that that you've identified that is a need, and obviously they're undertaking that. So you just talking that and endorse that.
Through the chair. Ngā mihi kia koe.
Thank you, Deputy Chair Dougal. And we do have a recommendation, please, to receive the report, A27 Group Training KPI report, if you're happy to move in that way. I have a mover in Deputy Chair Dougal. Seconder in Mayor Tanzosh. All those in favour, please signal aye.
Well, can I make a
Mayor
point?
Tanzosh.
My apologies. First of all, just to endorse Deputy Chair's comments, I think that this, certainly for myself, in terms of when we're facing the events that come our way, I've got a great deal of confidence in the staff and the advice I'm being given, and I know because it's this kind of training and the experience that various people have developed over time. So I want to thank you for that. Totally endorse that. I'll just make a comment there. Again, there's a couple of details in the report that are not quite up to date. So I just invite you to liaise with our WDC staff just for the next report, just to make sure those are up to date. But yeah, no, thank you for a great job.
Thank you, Mayor Tanzosh. Appreciate the presentation of the report. Minute Tahere. The item has been moved and seconded, and the item is carried. Thank you. Ngā mihi.
Ngā mihi.
We're on page 64 of our agenda team, agenda item 8.5, which is the B27 Group Office Annual Plan Performance Monitoring Quarterly Q3 Report for 2025-26. We are again joined by the Manager of Planning, Manager Paul Greenshields, for this agenda item. Manager Greenshields, we're in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take this report as read, but give you a little bit of a snapshot of where we're at. So progress has been steady across this current annual plan, despite the weather events at the beginning of the year. The activity that I alluded to back in my first paper is the develop, complete, and socialise the regional guideline for engaging in land use planning process. This one here has been recognised as a activity that won't be fully completed this financial year, and so to mitigate that, what we're doing is trying to complete just that first step in this financial year, which is the development phase of the guidelines. The rest of this activity has been brought across to 26-27 AP as a priority A activity, and will continue to be delivered across 26-27 as one of our priority activities. So for the next step for the current annual plan, Q4 results will appear in the group annual report, and hot off the press yesterday, I can give this committee the assurance that we have completed all activities, all A activities, apart from the one I've just mentioned. So the report will describe the activities and that we've completed. It'll share our successes. This is the annual report. It'll share our successes, and it will be, you'll see that report come through in the next governance cycle.
Thank you, Manager Greenshields. Committee members, we're in your hands. Thank you. We're all happy? Very good. We do have a recommendation, please. Thank you, Manager Greenshields. You can just stay at the table if you like, if you're going to be joining us again, but we do have a recommendation to receive the report. I'm happy to move if I can invite a second. I have a second, and Councillor Beach. All those in favour, please signal aye. Those against? There are none. The item is carried. Thank you. We are on page 70, team, agenda item 8.6, which is our National Emergency Management Agency, often referred to as NEMA. Lots of acronyms in this business update. Please to the Bay of Plenty Sedum Group Joint Committee, not for April, but for July 2026. Team, forgive us. Advisor Shona, we're in your hands. Thank you.
Good, thank you. I'll take the report as read. There will be a couple of items that I'll just highlight on. As Jono mentioned earlier, the bill is hopefully going through its second reading this week. So we are all waiting with our fingers crossed on that. And you'll see I've added a paragraph there around offshore islands and particularly a comment there around the provisions to take into effect the day after the Royal Assent. And I've had confirmation from our policy team that the Minister and the Emergency Management Committee will have more time to have that in place rather than the day after Royal Assent, which is good to know. So you'll have appropriate time frame there for that to happen. So it doesn't have to happen at pace because we are not sure when that Royal Assent will happen. So just a bit of reassurance there for you that there'll be engagement from the local government minister on that space. The next item there is around our emergency management sector operational systems project, and that has come about as a budget bid that we have been successful in attaining funding for that project, and there's some details there around that. And a couple of weeks ago, Bay of Plenty hosted a workshop with our MSOS, another acronym, team that was well attended by all the councillors. So thank you for having good representation at that workshop. That will help inform the next stage and the next business case that's needed for that project to progress. And happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Advisor Morgan. Of course, there's never a lack of acronyms here. And emergency management, MSOS, of course, being the Emergency Management Sector Operational Systems Program that we're referring to. We understand why, with that mouthful, why you would create an acronym, but we are peppered with them, and often it's in times of emergency at pace when we are communicating across teams who've been trained in emergency management. It's just quicker to be able to reference that. Committee members, we're in your hands, and again, warm welcome to new Advisor Morgan from NEMA. If there's nothing further, Advisor Morgan?
That's it.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. For those with Hawkeye's minute Hansosh, of course, we had in the agenda, we were looking to receive a report for April 2026. We meant July. To do these things to see who's looking. So we do have a recommendation, please, to receive the report, our NEMA update for the Bay of Plenty Sedum Joint Committee Group for July 2026. If you're happy to move in that way, we should have a mover in Mayor Tansosh and a seconder in Councillor Beach. All those in favour, please signal aye. Those against? There are none. Thumbs up, Mayor Tapsell, thank you. There are none. The item is carried. Moving on, please, to page 73 of our agenda. We're at agenda item 8.7, which is the Emergency Management Bay of Plenty. Congratulations, Regional Manager update. Group Manager Gracie, we're in your hands. Thank you.
Yeah. I'd firstly like to acknowledge the staff across the region for the effort in delivering the training that we spoke of earlier. That's not just an acknowledgement to the staff that delivered the training, but it's also the professional emergency management staff that coordinated all, and our wider staff from across the councils that give up their time to add this into their work to contribute to our purpose. So, and to highlight that point, actually, I'll point out that Deputy Chair Dougal is coming to join us to observe a intermediate course next week, which is fantastic. I'll provide with a couple of information sheets relevant to this committee, and it is centered around the emergency management bill, but the key message that I will emphasise here is that the emergency management is increasingly being treated as core council business, and this aligns with this group's submission for the EM bill in seeking clearer local responsibilities. Although I will point out that not every position that we advanced in our submission was adopted, and one of the key issues that is outstanding for us and somewhat unique to the Bay of Plenty is the offshore island responsibility, and that does remain unresolved, and that was a key issue in our submission. Our concern was that joint responsibility can lead to unclear accountability and decision making during emergencies, with the risk that responsibility becomes contested when issues arise. So our submission advocated for a single accountable entity to provide greater clarity. But as it stands now, we have a memorandum of understanding with the Ministry of Local Government, which was signed in 2017. That will remain in place, but it will need to be updated once the bill comes into an act. And for that, we should expect notice from the Minister following royal assent on how we do that, as alluded to. So we look forward to that, but I think that'll be a point of great diligence for us in terms of making sure that the responsibilities are clear going forward with our offshore islands. Yeah, the information sheet there talks about multi-member emergency management committees. And this is very similar to the current joint committee construct that we sit in, but it clarifies local member responsibilities, including planning, providing for emergency management, and the identification of hazards and risks, which is of particular interest at the moment. It also talks about implementing the relevant aspects of the regional emergency management plan. And so this will be the evolution of the group plan as we know it now. And there'll be some planning standards that will come with that over the next few years. For mayors, the bill largely carries forward your ability to declare, but there are some changes that will clarify how, for example, mayor-elects can declare emergencies. Emergency management committees or joint committees appoint elected representatives, and they reserve declaration powers and how they would operate under the new framework. And this will be clarified at the training session at the end, because there is a little bit to work through on some of those nuances around declaration, which will be provided. Welcome any questions.
Thank you, Group Regional Manager Gracie. Committee members, we're in your hands. Thank you. If there is nothing from committee members, thank you for clarifying the lack of clarity regarding the offshore islands. Regional Manager Gracie, that's incredibly unhelpful. However, as a committee, we committed to raising that as part of our submission. And we do have some public excluded due to legal implications, conversations that we continue to hold as part of the group. Thank you to the team for actually having that as part of our submission. What it demonstrates is we ask the question for those who are making these decisions, and not just for this group, can I just say, but actually for all the sons and daughters of the Bay of Plenty who are being represented by members at this table. That's not, that lack of clarity isn't just afforded to official members of this group, but to the wider hapori of nearly 500,000 residents across our entire Bay of Plenty rohe. So just re-emphasise again, thank you for raising it. That is all we can do, unfortunately, in some cases. However, a question has been asked and answered. We do have some dates around royal assent, and hopefully, not just for the members of this group, but for all the sons and daughters of Bay of Plenty, that clarity and responsibility in how things work, I'm sure would be appreciated. Me Tansosh, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, it's taking me a little while to catch up. Look, this whole area is a bit new to me, so I'm kind of struggling to work my way through what our responsibilities are. even the committee to be clear kind of what our governance role is compared to quite a lot of operational stuff that comes through. So I'm just getting my head around everything. So my apologies. Jono, you talked about our submission raising concerns around kind of fractured responsibility and accountability, I guess. And you probably did say, but I wasn't quite clear, what was the response to that in the still bill, I guess? How did the government respond to that, or the committee respond to it?
Thank you, Your Worship. So there was a number of options put forward when they drafted the bill, and with regards to where it could land in terms of having a single responsible entity, but and then they landed on joint responsibility. So whilst the Minister of Local Government is the territorial authority for offshore islands like Motiti, Whakaari, Tuhua, the emergency management responsibilities can be negotiated or worked through. And so at the moment we have a memorandum of understanding, and in readiness and response, there is some clarity there, but in terms of risk reduction, there is not. And that identifying some of those responsibilities is essential going forward as we're learning from.
Thank you for that answer. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor Tansosh. If there's anything further from committee members, please? If you're happy to, Mayor Tansosh, we do have a recommendation, please, to receive the report. Emergency Management Bay Plenty Regional Managers written update, if you're happy to move in that way. I have a mover in Mayor Tansosh and a seconder in Deputy Chair Dugal. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against, there are none. The item is carried. We are at page 90, team of our agenda. This morning, agenda item 8.8, which is the Regional Manager recruitment process. We are in the hands of Group Manager of Regulatory Services of our Bay of Plenty Regional Councillor, Toi Moana. Group Manager Fraser, we're in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At the last joint committee meeting, the members raised some concern about the process followed for appointment of the regional manager, Jono, and requested us to report back with details of the recruitment process followed, with the objective of facilitating a conversation about potential improvements to that process. So the report that is on page 90 of your agendas outlines the legislative and governance framework that applies to the process, and then the recruitment and appointment process followed. I'd like to take that report as read, but open to invite questions and or feedback on potential improvement from the members.
Thank you, committee members. We're in your hands. Thank you. Ms. Tapsell, were there any points of clarification that you had in regards to agenda item 8.8 in terms of the recruitment process?
Kia ora koutou, and thank you for bringing back this report. That was a request because we just want to make sure that as the elected members, as the governance of this joint committee, although we're grateful for an administration role that Bay of Plenty Regional Council play, it's also very important that given we're a joint committee of leaders from across the region, that in my view, and I heard it was shared, that there is actually an opportunity for those of us across the region to also have some insight into this. And to put that from a really practical perspective, can we ensure that this very important role is filled by people that will not only be able to respond in Tauranga, but Western Bay, Rotorua, Pōtiki, Kawerau, Whakatane. So it's really just making sure that there is a level, it's not necessarily confidence, but just a level of due diligence in these processes moving forward. And if I can also compare that to how we usually do recruitment processes for other significant leadership roles within councils, there is also normally governance or leadership oversight on at least the short list of the applicants. So respecting that this process is already done and dusted, and very happy to be welcoming our new person, our new chair director of the General Manager of Regulatory Services. What I would like to ensure, though, is that in future there is at least an opportunity in a confidential session mentioning respecting the sensitivities of individuals, making sure that we can at least share our thoughts and our reflections as well into that. So yeah, I think that would be consistent in future, and I'm not really sure what else to add there. So yeah, I think that helps explain it, but it is really good to get this in front of us. We want to make sure that all decisions and all leaders, whether it be from around the table or also from officers' perspective, we're ensuring that we're working together as a team. And that's all I'm asking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Tapsell. Group Manager Fraser, really just some recommendations of giving an assurance of an ability to be able to lead teams, perhaps in the application framework, so that can be reflected that as a panel member, I can attest to those being raised, but it would give an assurance to, again, the committee members who ultimately are legally responsible for what is undertaken and what is not in the emergency management space, really working hand in hand, side by side around these important, very important, because we have group regional managers here, but we're fine. We're having this discussion just to make sure that we are satisfied that processes have been followed and obvious questions that matter, particularly in times of crisis and urgency, have been satisfied as part of that process. Group Manager Fraser, thank you. If there's anything further from committee members, please. If there are none, Mayor Tapsell, we do have a recommendation to receive the report, Regional Manager Recruitment Process, if you're happy to move in that way, Your Worship.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
I have a mover in Mayor Tapsell and a seconder in Deputy Chair Dougal. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against? There are none. The item is carried. We're at agenda item 8.9, please, which is a verbal update, simplifying local government, not so simple. Potential models for joint committee emergency management. We're again joined by Group Manager Ruben Fraser, our GM for Regulatory Services for Bokase, Toi Moana. Group Manager Fraser, we're in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. The Chair requested a verbal update on this as part of our agenda briefing, and so I'm going to do my best just really to offer you some observations, I think, on emergency management implications of the Head Start options that are now being worked through across the Bay of Plenty, and noting that there's some really good information in the fact sheets that were included in the agenda as part of Jono's update. So good timing, and following on from Shona's update as well, I think. I appreciate that each group member council is doing its own thinking about what will work best for its communities. And so I'm really not trying to prescribe a single answer, but really just to highlight for your consideration some potential emergency management trade-offs that sit behind each option that the Mayoral Forum is considering at the moment. So that just everybody will know that probably better than me, but my understanding, the options primarily being considered at the moment are a single regional unitary authority, 3 unitary authorities, either with or without a council-controlled organisation and or a joint committee, 2 unitary authorities, and that's a list of the options being considered, and those will all be worked through in a sort of structured process that still leaves the final choice with each of the member councils. I think the first point to make is that the proposed emergency management bill makes the governance design more important, not less important. So in simple terms, as Don has already said, it would replace the current Act, establish emergency management committees, require coordinating executive groups, retain statutory controller and recovery manager roles, and add stronger regional planning standards, reporting and compliance settings. So the direction of travel in that whole thing, I think, is towards clearer accountability, a higher minimum standard, and stronger end-to-end system across the 4 Rs. It really matters in my mind because emergency management doesn't sit on its own. It really depends heavily on the local government system around it. So where hazard management, planning, infrastructure and recovery are well aligned, the system performs better. Where those functions are split across multiple organisations, you tend to get more duplication, more inconsistent assumptions, thinner specialist capability, and more coordination friction. And John has touched on that already. And especially in my mind, where catchments, infrastructure networks, emergency events cross those council boundaries. At your previous meeting, when you were discussing future direction of the Eastern Bay Plenty Response model, members highlighted the need to consider impacts beyond the Eastern Bay, including prolonged or region-wide emergencies, resource fatigue, and Stacey's touched on that as well, I think, and access to external and national surge capacity in large-scale or catastrophic events. On the options themselves, I think a single regional unitary authority has clearest advantages from an emergency management performance perspective, and that's because it gives the simplest governance line, keeps those regional services together, and is the easiest model for aligning emergency management with those things that I've mentioned before, so planning, hazard management, transport, infrastructure, recovery. The caution that comes with that a single unitary model is different. It's not fragmentation perhaps, but the risk that emergency management becomes one important function among many and must compete internally, therefore, with other priorities of that organisation. So if that model were pursued, I think the design challenge would be to protect emergency management capability inside of that larger organisation, while also trying to preserve genuine local voice. And there are some challenges in that area too. A 3 unitary authority model gives stronger local identity and local control, but in my view, from an emergency management perspective, it carries the greatest fragmentation risk. So the hazards that we deal with, weather systems, shared catchments, lifelines, and regional recovery pressures do not stop at council boundaries. If emergency management capability, planning settings, and risk assumptions are split in those 3 ways, the risks that I see are more duplication, thinner specialist depth, and harder coordination in a multi-district event. It doesn't mean that the model can't work. It means that if that option is pursued, some form of shared regional emergency management governance will become very important rather than an optional thing. And I think the bill leaves it open for, if there were 3 unitary model councils pursued, the bill leaves it open for each of those councils to have their own CDM delivery, which I don't think would be a great thing to do. And I'd really encourage
Manager Fraser, I'd caution you to give some recommendation about that, please. I'm just going to caution you around that. Quite happy to receive the report in terms of identifying pros, cons, benefits and or risks. Happy to receive that as a committee, but to speak beyond that, because there are a number of elected members of councils who are not sitting here with an individual opinion in this conversation piece, but rather are going out and seeking the views of the communities that they serve. So happy to receive the functions. Please, I'll invite you to continue on in that line. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess then the 2 middle options being considered sit between those 2 extreme poles. A 3 unitary model with a CCO may help retain some delivery scale for functions best done regionally, but that doesn't give the answer to governance clarity. A joint committee approach with 3 unitary model is stronger from an emergency management perspective, in my view, because it explicitly recognises that those functions still need regional governance. It's important, I think, that shared governance arrangement has real authority, pooled specialist capability and common risk settings. And the 2 unitary model has some similar sorts of pros and cons. So I guess just to sum up, the direction of travel that I would really encourage is this: whatever structure is preferred, in recognising councils are seeking feedback from their communities, emergency management capability needs to be protected, regional scale preserved where it matters, and integration with planning, infrastructure, hazard management and recovery needs to be built in by design. If the region lands on a single authority, the key issue is protecting emergency management and local voice. If the region lands on multiple authorities, The key issue is not to assume coordination will happen by itself. It will need to be deliberately hardwired through shared governance, shared capability, and common regional settings. My core point, I think, is simply that not all models carry the same emergency management risk, and the more fragmented the structure, the more deliberate we will need to be to stop performance degrading over time.
Thank you, Group Manager Fraser. Committee members, we're in your hands. Thank you. Memoir.
Yeah, look, I've got a meeting after this, so I'm not going to say too much, but thank you for having the chair actually intervening there. I'm just wondering, have you ever sat in the council building when the emergency is taking place, and when all your communication's lost, completely lost? I've had 3 weather events in my short time as mayor. I'm just wondering if you have actually had that experience.
I have been involved in many responses at the group level, but not with all communications lost.
Okay, and so you're putting in an opinion there, and it's actually up for the individual councils to actually come up with their opinion. So I'm happy to receive that, but there was, I do think you overstepped your mark there. Just saying, and like I say, I'm not going to say too much more than that because I have got a meeting after this with someone that I want to go in with an open mind. Yeah, but I'll be having a bit more to say about this report later on.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mayor Tansosh.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. I think you've raised some issues we need to consider carefully. I have a number of questions, if I may. The first one is just thinking, so taking this as an opportunity, these reforms as an opportunity to have a real rethink how we approach these things. My first question is, in terms of emergency management, are there any arguments for or against looking beyond what's currently the regional council boundary to see whether, for example, if you, regardless of the shape of what it looks like, have potentially having a joint committee, for example, that didn't just follow the current regional council boundary, but looked at other areas where there might be some reasons why it would make sense to be part of some kind of joint arrangement.
John and James, I think, feel free to chip in here, but yeah, in my view, Mayor Tansosh, absolutely. And it would be very sensible to revisit that decision once some sort of local government structure has been landed on. And the bill provides flexibility for civil defence emergency management areas. It doesn't limit organisations in terms of existing boundaries. And I think some of those principles that I talked about in terms of scale, fragmentation, etc., absolutely would lend themselves to looking at wider areas.
Any initial views about where we might want to look if we choose to go down that road?
I hadn't thought about that.
Thank you. That's really helpful. My second question is around so I'm new into this whole area of CDEM. You are with the regional council. I'm just trying to understand under these reform proposals, the regional councils will be gone. The role of the regional council currently in this, so we sit as a joint committee with representation from the different councils. We're just looking at the structure that's set out on page something of the report, page 105. So it outlines the cascade of so you've got the joint committee providing governance, coordinating executive group, management and compliance, this the KEG operations subcommittee, emergency management bay of plenty, and then the operations of delivery at the TA and regional council level. So interested in the regional council specifically has a role at that CDEM operations and delivery. So I'm interested to understand what that is, and also presumably providing kind of secretariat support for this committee. Is that the role of the regional council?
Yeah, I think, so certainly as the administering authority, that's one of the regional council's roles, to support the existence and performance of the group office, MBOC. I think there are a range of other activities that are identified in the regional policy statement, which tries to provide some clarity around what regional council does in terms of some of those regional scale assessments and modelling, etc., that then flow on into the work that your council and other territorial authorities do at that more local scale.
Thank you. Because I'm interested, if we do, and nothing's been decided, but if we do end up with sub-regional unitaries or something along those lines, I think there's an awareness that there's a bunch of regional functions that need to be carefully thought through as to how they'd be delivered. And this would be one, and I guess your argument is that whatever we do, we just need to make sure we've got the right governance in place that allows us to look at those, both to coordinate across our councils, but also provide a uniquely regional voice or extra regional voice potentially.
I think the coordination part is what I would really like to stress.
Right.
And if there were a three unitary model, I think particularly important for those three organisations to work together, at least at that scale.
Yeah. My final question, and apologies for taking up a lot of time. So currently, the primary role of the KEG, I guess, and the cascading groups is around coordination rather than delivery of discrete functions.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Josh, thank you. Committee members, raise your hands. Thank you, Group Manager Fraser. Perhaps what may have been an incredibly helpful statement in terms of simplifying local government was a recommendation to Minister Watts for local government and Minister Bishop for RMA reform to perhaps pay the courtesy and respect of a discussion with the Minister of Civil Defence to better understand the implications of disestablishing the administering body of civil defence. That would have been a far more useful recommendation to this table. As I stated earlier, there has been a lot of work that has been undertaken at pace. It took 5 years for the reform for Auckland City to be finalised, and yet we don't value the whole of Aotearoa New Zealand enough to afford that timeline in some strange and unhelpful way. It has been determined that 90 days is all that it's needed to be able to reform the entire country, the network of 78 councils at present. I'm also not clear or sure or have been given assurances that much is known about the duality of the roles of territorial authorities in relation to the coordination and the partnerships and the working together, collaboration of civil defence work. I just looked down the chamber here to Advisor James Jefferson, who captured that beautifully in terms of the duality in our territorial authorities. And if you've not been part of one before, you may never understand the dual burden and role when there are particular territorial authority functions and services that need to be delivered, and primarily that is the recruitment of those appointment processes. However, when Mother Nature intervenes, I don't know why she's a female, but anyway, that's how it's referred to. In times of emergency and crisis, whoever your staff are of territorial authorities, we come into this training, this wonderful training program that we heard from earlier, to be able to take on a completely different role. Nobody backfills those territorial authority roles. We do the best that we can, and we've had some conversations about the emotional toil, strain and burden that continues to hold. Yet at a given point in time, our territorial authority, our council staff are expected to go back and be dog rangers, food checkers, administrators for whatever their day role is, that will not remove the memories that sits in the heart of our staff who deliver these dual roles. So thank you for that report. Again, we are not fighting against one another in this area. The lack of logic and common sense around having cross-minister discussions so that could have been sorted out at that national end, because as you've so beautifully described, Group Manager Fraser, there are lots of considerations to be made. However, that needs to be led from the front and from the top, and it obviously hasn't been. So, Advisor Morgan, please. Just an encouragement. We have had the pleasure, and I am going to use that word, of hosting Minister Mitchell. He also wears dual portai in his portfolio, police, emergency management. He understands. We just encourage from the Bay of Plenty Rohe, it may have been more helpful as we're trying to understand the implications and some of that unintended consequence, A, of a very constrained timeline, and B, the lack of consideration across the shared house and portfolios. If Minister Mitchell would be afforded, again, the respect of just the conversation so that they may be taken into consideration by Mayors Watts and Bishop, that would be most certainly helpful as we come back into our local communities of Arohi. Thank you. I would also, Group Regional Manager Gracie, I'd be interested to see what the conversation is across the network of CEDM groups for the country. As I said, we're not so special that this is just happening for us here in the Bay of Plenty. All of the civil defence groups, I'd be particularly interested in the Pairāwhiti, those hapori communities that still live in the recovery, may never escape the recovery phase of Cyclone Gabrielle. Just what's happening across the network. There's also some intelligence thinking there that addresses the very risks that Group Manager Fraser has raised, taking strength from the network in the civil defence emergency management space, just to see what that national conversation is. I would be incredibly surprised if there wasn't also an encouragement to invite Minister Mitchell to be part of those considerations and conversations in simplifying local government. Thank you, committee members. Regional Manager Gracie, anything further, please?
Yeah, I think Madam Chair, is to speak to Your Worship, Mayor Moore's point around local delivery. Also, won't make comment on whatever structure. What I will say is that local delivery of emergency management is critical, and it can't, regardless of where we land, we can't take that for granted at all. And in my mind, whilst I speak in a regional role, I say that it's the most important thing because it's where we are connected with community. So that is the critical failure point of the system. So it is of massive importance to us. And so as we go forward in the conversations I'm having with other group managers around the country, we are working through how that looks, but very focused on what functions are where as opposed to the structure at this point.
Thank you, Group Manager Gracie. A wonderful way to return and celebrate localism. Those who rise and fall under the matariki stars of the places that they call home, that are motivated by what they see, hear, touch and feel and interact and build their homes, raise their families, go about raising income or deriving income in each of our hapori. Beautiful reminder. Thank you so much. If there's nothing further from committee members, we'll just check online. We do have a recommendation, please, to receive the verbal update of simplifying local government potential models for joint committee emergency management. I'm going to take the grace of Advisor Morgan, just taking back some of those comments and recommendations from our joint committee, please. Regional Manager Gracie, please just to reach out to our civil defence network. Every part of our nation would be asking the same questions and be concerned about that, what is being raised. Do I have that? I'll invite please a mover to receive the verbal report this morning. I have a mover and Deputy Chair Dougal. Seconder and me Tantosh. All those in favour, please signal aye. Those against? There are none. The item is carried. I am watching that time, Mayor Tepsel, your worship. We're moving along. We're at agenda item 9, which is our public excluded section at 11:41 a.m. The Joint Committee will now close the public section of the meeting and move into public excluded discussion. The specific grounds under section 48(1) of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act of 1987, often referred to as LAGOIMA. We're going to keep our acronyms all day, team. For the passing of this resolution are 48(1)A Roman numeral 1 section 7(2)G, withholding the information is necessary to maintain legal professional privilege. If I can move in that way and invite a seconder, please, to move into our public excluded section. I have a seconder and Deputy Chair Dougal. All those in favour, please signal aye. Those against? There are none. At 11:42, our wonderful Mirinda, we will move into the public excluded section. Kia ora tātou, we are at 12:16 p.m. We've concluded the public excluded section of our agenda this morning. We are at agenda item number 11, which is the readmission of the public. I'm happy to move the readmission of the public. If I can invite a seconder, please, from committee members. I have a seconder, Mayor Tantosh. All those in favour, please signal aye. Aye. Those against? There are none. We have the readmission of our wonderful public back into our Civil Defence Emergency Management meeting. We're at agenda item 12. Consideration of items not on the agenda, and for today's agenda here on the 3rd of July, there are none. This indeed for our Toi Moana Bay of Plenty Rohe concludes our SEDM Group Joint Committee meeting for the 3rd of July 2026 at 12:17. Manager Tahere, we come to the conclusion of our hui, and we warmly invite you please to kia whakakapi tā tātou hui, to close our hui today with closing karakia. We're in your hands. Ngā mihi.
Ngā mihi, Madam Chair. Ngā mihi kia koutou i ngā rangatira. Thank you very much for attending, for all the hard work that you do in this space, and those communities and constituencies that you serve. Mia noi tātou. Whakaari te tapu kia wāti ai te ara. Kia tūruki whakataha ai, kia tūruki whakataha ai. Haumie, huie, taha kie.
Tai kie. Amene, that concludes our meeting at 12:18 p.m. To all of our teams, look after one another, keep safe, and we'll see you again in Western Bay of Plenty with our next meeting being held Friday, the 25th of September, to be hosted by Mayor Denia and Councillor Beach. Kia ora tātou. Thank you for those who joined us on.
Kia ora, thank
We
you.
do